Welcome to this episode of Kennedy Saves the World. And today we are saving you from being ordinary during the 150th running of the Kentucky Derby. Joining me now, I couldn't be more excited. She's a featured milliner. That means hat maker at the Derby. Christine Moore, welcome to Kennedy Saves the World.
Oh, thank you for having
Your
me here.
hats, your creations are absolutely incredible. I've seen them for years on one Janice Dean, but you have been kind enough to bring some into the podcast studio. So thank you.
It's my pleasure because I really want to save the world through fashion too.
And you are.
So
You are.
it works out. And you never want to be the plain girl at Derby. So
No.
that's what
Where
this
else
is
can you
about.
wear a hat and be celebrated? We don't have enough occasions to wear hats in our society.
Well, I everywhere I go is a hat world.
Yes.
So the beginning of the year is Mardi Gras, and then it goes into like some racing, and then you have Easter, and then you have garden parties, fundraiser parties like the Central Park Conservancy. So you could wear that's Central Park Conservancy.
I will
luncheon.
As soon as I get my invite. I'm wearing this,
and then you could go to the Derby a couple days later. But yeah, there's my world's full of hats. However, it is really true that not everybody. They get to wear a hat for these events. It's like they get really excited and giddy. And of course, the pinnacle is the Kentucky Derby.
It is. And so a mint julep and a hat, absolutely critical. It is a bucket list of mine. I've never been. I really want to go next year. I'm aiming to go to the Derby. When did the hat tradition start? And is that something from England? Do they always wear hats to fancy horse races there?
Yeah. So it starts like in the 1700s, and it was always a royal. The fashion came with the royals, and then in 1874, the Kentucky Derby was born, and it was really about legitimizing racing and bringing women into it and having families, and so the first Derby, they invited women because it was like back side like just horse races, and it was men, and it was they wanted to make it a real family thing,
society event.
Exactly.
Instead of just dudes smoking cigars and drinking whiskey and
shooting each other. Probably was in there too.
I mean, it's right after the Civil War.
Right. Yeah. So they they spread out a blanket, it was a picnic, and they had their kids there and fashion, and it just held.
That's amazing.
So the interesting thing, though, is looking back through history, most of Kentucky Derby fashion history has been like, wear your Sunday best. Like when I looked back, it wasn't very different. I did a retrospective for one of the hotels, Gold House,
nice.
a couple of years ago. And what I found, it was just really Sunday best. They would just, there was no difference in the fashion. It wasn't like it is now where you're like, go big or go home.
Okay.
And so as fashion and hats kind of became more casual in the 80s, 70s and 80s. It had a resurgence in the 90s.
Wow.
And also a bunch of young milliners, myself included, found the craft and started businesses. So it kind of was hand in hand with like, a new art form.
When did you start doing work with the Derby?
It was 2008. They approached me to help them solidify their brand and grow it just from my look, because my look is so unique. So I didn't know what I was getting into. I really didn't know much about racing at all. What a ride. I'm so glad. And then 2018, they asked me to be the first featured milliner.
And did you go back and look at some of the historical photographs for inspiration, or did you use the tools and the inspiration in your modern artistry?
I would say yes. The second, so I have a theater background, so naturally I'm going to look back to the past, for inspiration. That was just, but not particularly the Kentucky Derby. It was my own body of work that was just kind of rolling on, had, modern trends, had, color trends, and then, just, really theatrical history.
I
right.
love it.
And then, and then it just kind of like as I understood the Derby person, the Derby woman especially, I just learned how to design more and more for them. So it would just get like,
Who is she? Who is the
oh
person
my
that you're
gosh,
designing
she
for?
wants to she wants to be seen for sure, and
Mhm.
she actually in a very kind way wants to be the best of the best. Like you want to be an A plus and everybody stop and admire you. But in that you also turn and admire other people, which
Yeah.
is a really amazing to me that there's not more cattiness. Everyone's happy. Everyone's having a great time. Everyone
It's like
what's
it
it?
sounds like it's like going to a great costume party. It's so much fun going to a costume party when you have a kick-ass costume, but then when you see other people who've also put a lot of thought into their gear,
Yeah,
it stokes you out. Like you don't feel it's
absolutely.
not a zero-sum game. It's definitely positive sum, and there is something to enjoy for everyone, especially the more you participate, it sounds like the more you appreciate other people.
That's right. And I think the one thing I have found is that in Kentucky and Louisville, there is such a thing as bad press, right? They say all press is good press. That's not true. If you don't do your research and show up with a derby like so many celebrities do, in with the wrong fashion, it's serious.
And what is the wrong fashion? What's an
Would
example of
be
that?
just like a floppy hat,
Oh. Oh,
Yeah. I mean, I
no.
think I with helping the Kentucky Derby get rid of that look or the
Mhm.
ridiculous, I don't see it so much anymore. Everybody got the memo.
Mhm.
And, but there have been times when I've had to really fight hard with a stylist to say, hey, this is not my, or even a Northeasterner, a woman who's never really never worn a hat.
Mhm.
And she's like, oh, this is so big. And I'm like, you know what? You get there, there's no walls. The walls are blown out.
Yeah.
And, there's always somebody who has a
You're
bigger
not on the
hat than
subway.
you.
What are you worried you're
Yeah,
gonna bump into?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Don't go anywhere. More Kennedy Saves the World right after this.
And what have you what have you looked to do that you haven't been able to do yet? Like have you ever tried to put a live bird on a hat?
Funny you should say that. Yeah, I actually have.
Mhm.
So this woman came to me, and it wasn't for Derby. It was for a party. Um, yeah, I even want to say it was in Greece. I made her a bird cage hat.
Amazing.
And of course, I always like
I love
everything
it
on
already. Yeah.
a tilt. So she said, I want to put a live bird in there and for the party. And I was like, okay, yeah, the door will open,
Mhm.
and it'll lock. But her brother said, I don't think the bird's going to want to be on a slant the whole,
Yeah,
and it was
and
like, oh yeah,
be
yeah,
sort of tousled around the whole time.
yeah.
Because if the bird's on a slant, the poop will come out at a slant as well. And
Right. That was another
I don't know if
consideration
that's
too.
necessarily good luck on your party day to have a bird consistently pooping on you.
I don't think so. So
Yeah.
yes, I think she opted for the fake bird.
But
that was out of my
you
hands by then.
designed for the real bird.
Yes,
So the
I did.
commitment was
I
there
did.
on your end.
Hey, listen, and anything can be in a hat.
Yeah.
I
What have you
have
put on there that you absolutely love that you look back and you're like,
Um,
nailed it?
there's a lot actually that I think like I look back, scroll through my photos, and
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, I designed that.
Yeah.
And my staff, I have a staff that helps me make them, so it's not just me.
Yeah.
But and and they're all theater people, so they're used to repeating somebody else's design.
Okay.
So they're just such an excellent job, and I'm like, I can't believe this was this beautiful. Really, and looking back, it's kind of crazy, but because I feel like, I should know all my babies, but I look back and I'm like, oh
How many
man.
hats have you made?
Well, we figured out that I've gotten 10,000 labels 4 times.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I'm very prolific.
Wow.
And all of it, honestly, okay, so my dad's an engineer.
Mhm.
And I think that's part of what the system, it's trying to get I have artists in my workspace, so I don't want to bore them. They are also my audience as well as my customers. So I have two entities to impress.
Mhm.
And I want them to stay with me. So it's like trying to figure out how to make it really fun, but also very fast so we can really turn
You
out
got
a
to turn
lot
and
of
burn.
stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. And just be like, you know what? Just remember, as soon as you finish that, I have another really fun project for you.
Mhm.
And it works. I feel the same way. I'm not lying.
So
to them.
you have to be incredibly inspired. Like the creative vein has to always be open, and you have to be a hard worker. Like you have to have an incredible work ethic. It sounds like to do what you're doing.
Oh yeah, because we even do the oops, there's no lining in here, but we usually put a lining in, but then also we have a drawstring, grosgrain. It's like everything is from scratch.
Yeah.
I even dye the straw,
Oh, I love it.
everything. So yes, it is a lot of work ethic. I mean, I grew up on a farm, so
you grew up on a farm. Your dad's an engineer.
my mom was a social worker. I mean, had a master's in social work, so she was a good, emotional intelligence person. I think there's a better way to say that. But
you have like math, agriculture, high EQ, and you're an artist.
Yeah.
I mean, that is incredibly multi-dimensional. And
thank you for laying all that out, Kennedy.
Absolutely. And where can people find your work if they want to be inspired?
So camhats.com.
Camhats.com.
I sell to stores around the country and specialize in events. So you could catch me at an event or one of the stores I sell to. Do a lot of trunk shows. Because the more I talk to people, the more I figure out what I'm designing. I mean, that people just in watching them try on hats, I just figure a lot, for the next collection or just even for them. I call myself a fashion forensic.
Oh, that's great. So this is going to be a big year, the 150th running. What are you looking forward to in terms of the fashion? Have you bumped it up a notch because it is the...
Yes, of course. The fans have made me bump it up. Even the guys, they love their fedoras. It's American style.
Absolutely right. And seersucker. Do we see seersucker on the men at the Derby?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, people still. But even better than that, they're now going into the printed suit. So, you got the seersucker, the traditional, and then you have you went to the plaid with the little line through like that. So it's like, could be, like navies and then you got this like bright red stripes through it or coral or something like that. Now we're seeing like just more men doing like a sports coat that's got a print on it or or crazy pants. I mean,
I love crazy pants.
I'm
living for all of this. Like there's nothing that you've said so far that puts me on the fence.
Yeah,
like I'm squarely in Derby territory. Like I am a supporter.
I am an ambassador, so that's good. I did my job.
No, you do phenomenal work. Camhats.com, camhats.com.
Right.
People should go look, get inspired, buy a hat if you have any extras, and you may not because it's such a big year. And I know people are going to be having Derby parties on their own.
Yeah.
I will be among them. I will see you at the Derby next year.
Yes.
Christine, it is
High
an
five
absolute
on that.
delight to meet you and see some of your incredible work.
It's nice to meet you too.
Thank you.
It's like wolf star.
Oh, Christine. This is the best. Look at my fascinator. Isn't it fascinating? This has been Kennedy Saves the World along with Christine Moore. I'm Kennedy.
Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app. Oh, go ahead and leave me a review while you're there. I'd love to hear what you have to say. You've been listening to Kennedy Saves the World on the Fox News Podcast Network.